Hey guys, T2, welcome back to Titan Preparedness. Today's video is going to be the beginning of a what if series here on this channel. Today's video is going to focus in on an event that I talk about all the time on this channel, and that is the 1-year power outage following Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. So for today's video, we're going to discuss number 1, what happened and what were some major events that event caused. Number 2, how did the people of Puerto Rico get through this event? And number 3, what if I was there? What if that happened here? What would I want? What would I need to make it through that event? So let's start off with number 1. What was the major event and what were some minor events that came from it? On September 20th, 2017, the island of Puerto Rico was hit with a Category 5 hurricane named Hurricane Maria. This hurricane brought with it over 150-mile-per-hour winds, over 50 inches of rainfall, and sat on top of the island for almost 8 hours, causing devastation during that entire time. The island of Puerto Rico just was not ready for a Category 5 storm because Maria was not supposed to be a Category 5 storm. You see, a few weeks prior from Hurricane Maria making landfall, Hurricane Irma passed by the island. And so they sent a lot of their resources to other places to assist those communities. One spokesperson for the emergency management of Puerto Rico said that when Hurricane Maria hit, they had 2 cots on the island because the rest were sent elsewhere due to Hurricane Irma. They were not expecting it to grow to a Category 5. They also were not expecting it to slow down and sit on top of the island for 8 hours. So the major event was a Category 5 hurricane. That leads me to problem number 2 that Puerto Rico faced. Hurricane Maria was a terrible situation. Category 5 hitting your home, terrible, terrible event. Hurricane Maria initially only cost 13 lives. By the end of the total event, it caused almost 3,000 Puerto Rican lives to be lost. So how did a Category 5 storm that initially killed 16 people end up costing 3,000 lives? That's because of problem number 2, which was the power outage. Puerto Rico was not necessarily in the best of situations when Maria hit, which means that a lot of critical infrastructure components might not have been in the best shape that they could have been. There was an interview with a man that works for the Army Corps of Engineers, and he said that the Puerto Rican electrical grid was the worst that he'd ever seen in his entire career, and that was before the storm. After the storm, it is like putting back together a puzzle that is not only tore apart, but every piece is torn into 5 or 6 or 10 different pieces. So before you put together the big puzzle, you have to put each piece back together one by one. There's a lot of people that say, I don't need power to survive, I can survive a 1-year power outage, no problem. You might not need power to survive, but the elderly who live on the island probably do, right? They're on oxygen. They have medical devices that require electricity. They have medication that they need to keep cold. They have dialysis that they need 3 times a week. Those individuals need the electricity. Not to mention, this was a year-long event. So you're going through multiple different seasons through that 1-year course of time. So the power outage that Hurricane Maria caused the remaining almost 3,000 lives. The third event that this storm caused was a political dogfight. Now you might sit here and think, how does politics play into people losing their lives because of a hurricane? Let me explain. President Trump was a very polarizing figure, to say the least. The mayor of San Juan was not a fan. So the two of them bumped heads on absolutely everything. So the news didn't focus in on all these people who are losing their lives because there's no power, who are having to walk 5 to 10 miles to go get water, who are drinking tainted water at that. Instead, it became 2 political figureheads getting in a fight on Twitter. Now, this political fighting caused a lot more drama than it should have, and it caused the island of Puerto Rico to go without a lot longer than it should have. So while resources were being sent, they weren't going anywhere. They were being put on the island and then sitting in one place. Now, I don't know who's to blame for that. But when you have 19,000 cases of water sitting on a tarmac a year later, you can't blame the people that delivered it to you for not passing it out. What this should tell you is you cannot rely on the government to come and help you out. 19,000 cases, that's almost 6.5 million bottles of water sitting on a tarmac on the island instead of being passed out to the people. So if you're not prepared and you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs waiting for the government to deliver you water, good luck. Make sure you have your own way of doing things. That leads me to number 2. How did the people of Puerto Rico survive this calamity, horrific situation? I will give props to the people of Puerto Rico. While the governments on both sides were battling it out on Twitter, the people were getting things done. I watched one video. There was a bridge leading up to this little community. It had been wiped out by the massive flood rains. Within 2 days, there was a rope bridge that was built. It wasn't built by the army. It wasn't built by the mayor of San Juan. It was built by the people. The Puerto Ricans were the ones taking care of the fellow Puerto Ricans. So they built this rope bridge to help out this community. They were sending supplies, they were sending baskets of water, they were sending whatever they could. Flashlights, headlamps, batteries, whatever could fit in the basket, sending it over the river to help this community that was now basically blocked off because the bridge had been taken out. My buddy Chris got deployed with his National Guard unit to Puerto Rico for about a month and a half. And he said he would sit and watch these people as they would take bundles of bamboo and go up into this mountain. He didn't know what they were doing at the time, but eventually he figured it out. So what they did is they would take all this bamboo and climb the mountain to the water source, which was a little creek, a little river. And they would build this water structure using the bamboo and send it downhill. So now the community didn't have to climb the mountain with their 5-gallon buckets. Instead, they built this almost mile-long structure to get the water from point A to point B, where people were not having to climb mountains to go get their water. So the people that built those structures would spend their time, energy, and effort to help out their community. So they were very ingenuitive. I will give them props, 100% props for that. Now let's talk about power for a second, electricity. When the storm hit, for basically about a month, there was no power anywhere on the island. 6 months in, about 50 to 60% of the island had power. A year in, 30% of the island was still without power. So a lot of people went without power for a long period of time. So if you had some way to make power, such as a generator or a little solar system, you tried to help out your fellow neighbor. You might not have been able to run their house, but maybe you could hook up their fridge or their freezer to assist with keeping their food cold. People try to help out others and lend a helping hand during disaster scenarios. But it's an entirely different situation helping out your neighbor for 2 or 3 days and leading it into a year. So for number 3, what if that happened here? Hopefully, because we are mainland USA, it won't be as bad of a situation. But again, we're asking what if. We're not saying, well, it'll never happen, because that's not what preppers do. What if we didn't have power for a year? What if the water supply went down? What if that happened here? Now, aside from food, what are some items, some gear, some skills that I would want that would help me survive this situation? Number 1, lights and power. I talk about it all the time on this channel. Lights and power are often overlooked and are great barter and trade items. You, personally, might not need power to survive. Cool, good on you. However, your freezer needs power for the food in it to survive. The average freezer is only going to stay cold enough to keep your food good for about 24, maybe 36 hours if you're lucky. Day 2, day 3, day 4, by day 5, you're throwing all the food in your freezer away. One of the easiest ways is, of course, a gas generator. Now, gas generators are great. Even with a small 1,000 watt generator, you can keep a freezer cold. However, you never know how long this power outage is going to last. And that is one problem with a gas generator. Most people who have a gas generator want to maintain their level of whatever they've got now. So the power goes out, they go and start up the generator. They plug up their fridge, their freezer, their lights, their cell phones, their TV, and they have all this stuff running all day long. Now my generator burns about 3.6 gallons in a 12-hour period. That means 2 days in, if I'm running this generator non-stop, that's 6 gallons of gas, almost 7 gallons of gas. By day 4, I'm basically running on fumes. I would only want to run essential equipment for the shortest amount of time possible. My freezer, I would only plug it up twice per day. Maybe for about 2 to 3 hours a piece, one in the morning time, one at night time, unplug it when that 2-hour marker hits. That should be enough time for it to reach the temperature back down and then shut it off. My fridge is going to be the first place I pull food from. So if there's any food in my fridge, I'm going to run that fridge for about 2 to 3 hours, maybe twice a day. Then, when the fridge is all empty, unplug it. There's no use of running a fridge if there's no food in it. That way I can ration my gas for the longest amount of time possible. Now this is where your solar generators come into play. These massive battery packs that can run a fridge or freezer. Think the Gold Zero, the Blue Yetis, the Ecoflows, the Jackeries, the Rock Pals, anything that can run a fridge or freezer and can be ran off of solar. This is where those things come in handy. As long as you have the solar to recharge them, you don't have to worry about gas. Gas can be a tradable item, gas can be a giveaway item, gas can do whatever you want to do with gas. You don't necessarily need gas if you have one of these and have enough solar to recharge it. Now I do want to give a huge shout out to Mosaic Master 1. His link to his channel will be down in the description box below. He built this 12 volt solar powered system because he went through this event, and I've been picking his brain for the last few weeks. He's given me some great tips, some great tricks, and just his experience in this whole situation. So huge shout out to him. He built a 12 volt system to run basically everything in his house because he went through 6 months without power because of this event. So if you want to figure out from a direct source, go watch his videos, go watch his channels, and maybe he'll do an AAR, an after action report on what he needed and some information that I might have missed from this storm. On top of power, I would want lights. I'm not a fan of going to bed when the sun goes down at 6 p.m. It's not something I'm a fan of. I want to be able to do things, especially having small kids. They don't want to go to bed at 6 p.m. So having lights to play card games, to cook dinner, just to sit around and not be in the dark. Having lights equals safety. Solar powered rechargeable lights, or something that can run off of a solar system, or something that can run off of a little folding solar panel. Have solar lights or lights that can run off of those systems. That way you don't have to stock up and worry about batteries. All you have to do is set the solar panel out in the sun, it recharges the power bank, and you can recharge your flashlight, your headlamp, your cell phone even, and have light. Light equals safety. The second thing I would want is a good water system. Again, people got extremely sick drinking water from unknown sources, whether that was the river, the creek, or in their backyard. They would build a cistern and just get water from it. The problem with that is you never know what that water has in it. Now you can boil your water. If there's no electricity, many people have electric stoves, so they've got no way to boil that water. So you are at the mercy of whatever's in that water unless you can find a way to filter it / purify it. I would want something on the lines of a Berkey or an Alexa Pure, something that is very in depth with its water system. Even a Grail would work. Now what I would do is I would run it through my Hydro Blue bucket system. I would have sand and charcoal in the top bucket, run it through the sand, the charcoal, then the Hydro Blue, then through some sort of purifier like the Alexa Pure or like the Berkey. That way I am getting everything out. I'm getting the rocks, the sticks, the twigs, the dirt, the mud out with the Hydro Blue system, but I'm also getting all the viruses out with the Berkey system. Pre-filtering your water through that sand, charcoal, and Hydro Blue will also save the Berkey / Alexa Pure water filters so they don't get clogged up and dirty as fast. So we've got food, right? I didn't talk about it, but yeah, food's an obvious one. Everyone wants food. That's why I didn't talk about it. We've got electricity, lights, and power, especially solar lights and power. A simple 100-watt solar panel kit with a small car battery and a little inverter, and you can have power. We've got a water filtration system. The third one that I would want, which came in handy here after the tornado, is neighbors and friends and family. Having somewhere to go in case your house gets destroyed. having somewhere to go in case their house gets destroyed. Having more hands on deck means you can get more things done. If it's just me, my wife, and our kids, we are very limited on what we can do without having to drag the kids along with us. If we're having to walk 5 miles into town to go get food and water, well, we can't drag the kids along with us. Someone's going to have to stay back, which means that one person is carrying less. Myself and 2 or 3 other guys, we can fix a roof a lot faster than I can do it myself. We can carry more water back from the river, we can carry more food back from the city hall than we can me by myself, or me and my wife and having to watch all of our kids run around. As I said, the Puerto Rican civilian people took care of the Puerto Ricans. So making friends with your neighbors, making friends with your co-workers, your church members, whomever that lives in your community. So this video is getting a little long, so I'm going to wrap it up. But I know that I'm missing so much. So if you live in Puerto Rico, if you experience the Puerto Rico situation, let me know down in the comment section the items, the gear, the skills that you would want to know before this event hit. And what would you do if you went a year without electricity? What are the items, the gear, the skills that you would want if you had a massive Category 5 storm hit your house and you knew you were going to be a year without power? Alright guys, so that's all I've got. Again, huge shout out to Mosaic Master for giving me tips, tricks, and ideas. So again, this is National Preparedness Month. So if you're not already prepping, please start prepping. If you're already a prepper, get more prepared. Be better prepared. What if this happened where you live? And while this is a very unlikely situation to hit the mainland USA, this is not a statistics video. This is a what if video. What if it did happen? What if all hell broke loose and this event happened? Please do not be the type of person that gets on the national news and says, I wish the government would come and save us. That is not what this channel is about. That is not what National Preparedness Month is about. So again, any tips, tricks, ideas, any gear, supply, items, skills that you would want, list them down in the comment section below. I do have a few more what if videos planned for the rest of this month, but if you want me to do more after, let me know down in the comment section below, and I will. Alright guys, that's all I got. See you out.